Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to glue up your project pieces. I have the two assemblies is what I'm going to call them. Assemblies is just parts that need to go together, that need to get assembled. So the two assemblies that you're going to need are the small piece with the T-nut on it, and that is going to get joined to this piece here that has the rabbit on it over here, which is what the cell phone is going to mount to. If you're not sure which one that is, take your ruler to it. Let me just set this down. And it should be making sure that your line for the 0 is lined up to the end. It should be the piece that measures 10 inches long. Okay, so the 10-inch long piece with the rabbit is going to get joined to this piece here. And more on this later, but we have to make sure that this T-nut points in a specific direction. We'll get to that in a moment. The other things you're going to need are the other assembly, which is the vertical piece. It's pretty unmistakable because it has the groove in it and it has the rabbit here, and that is going to get joined to the base, and the base measures 5 3/4 long. And you should have already sanded all of the parts. You should have an X on one end of the base piece and one end of the piece with the T-nut where you stopped sanding after 100 grit, so that you didn't round over your corners. The other things you're going to need for the glue up is your bottle of glue, whether you have Titebond or Elmer's glue, either one is fine. You're going to need your roll of masking tape, more on that in a moment. You're then going to need, just to clean up the glue, a dry paper towel and a damp paper towel. And for the damp paper towel, what you want to do is get your paper towel, get it completely soaked in water at your sink, and then squeeze it really good to wring it out. Okay, you don't want water dripping off of this. You can see there's no water dripping off of this at all. It's just a damp towel. That's going to be used to wipe up any glue that squeezes out. And the dry one is going to be used to clean your hands. Okay, so we are going to get started here. And I think what we're going to do first is the piece with the T-nut and the piece that measures 10 inches long. We're going to join those two together. And when I mentioned before that it's going to be important that you put this going in a certain direction, the way I have it right now with the T-nut facing out is not going to be correct. We actually want the T-nut facing in to the inside like this. Okay, I'm going to move that in every different direction. This is really important. We want it facing in because on this side over here, notice it's flat. There's nothing sticking out. That is what is going to ride against the vertical piece here and move up and down to adjust. So if we had it going the other way, like this, you see how it's not going to sit flat on there? Okay, so just to show everyone that again, you're going to take your 10-inch piece, the surface on the piece with the T-nut with the X on it, and it needs to face in like this. Okay, so that's how it's going to get glued up. Now we want to prepare it for glue. And what I mean by that is getting our tape ready. So in normal times, when we're woodworking in the shop, when we glue pieces of wood together, it's not enough to just put glue on the surfaces, stick them together, and walk away like you're done. if you do that, it'll stick together, but it's not going to be very strong. What might happen is if you just give it one good bump or a pull, it might break right off. What you need to do to make a glue joint strong in woodworking is you need to have pressure applied. You need to clamp it, okay? You need to clamp it in place. So since I couldn't send you home with our bar clamps because they're really, really heavy pieces of iron, we're going to use tape instead to apply that pressure. So what I want you to do to keep things as smooth as possible when you glue up is I want you to prepare your tape first. So what you want to do is rip long pieces of tape. You can make it longer than seems right. And I'm going to flip this over so the rabbit faces down. And what I want to do is line the underside with pieces of tape. Notice how this strip is sticking out. That's what I want. I'm going to rip more pieces, and I'm just going to put it right next to the last one, just side by side like this. And make sure you really press down really well on the surface here, because we want that not to move when we go and pull on it, to tighten our other piece down. Okay, so I'm going to lay that there. And lastly, try to keep the tape even with the edge as well. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to carefully lift it up. Oh, another thing that I should have mentioned is you should work on top of something that's protective of your work surface. So I chose just some cardboard from an Amazon package that I got. All right, so you should now have this turned upright again with the sticky side of the tape facing up. All right. And now comes the piece that we're going to glue up. So what's going to happen is we're going to put a little bit of glue on this surface and a little bit of glue on this surface. We're going to put it in place, and with my thumb and my middle finger, I'm going to squeeze on the sides to make sure it's lined up going this way and this way. I want to feel it nice and even with the sides. I'm going to put a little pressure down, and what I'll do is I'll lift these up, pull, and come around to hold it in place. Okay? So, to get started with your glue, there shouldn't be any seal in here. You can check to see if there is, but there shouldn't be. To open this up, what you want to do is just grab right here and lift up in this direction. You hear that little snap? When it's up, it's open. When it's down, it's closed. So we're going to leave that up. And I want you to get a feel for how much glue I'm using so you don't put too much on. It's kind of a fine balance between too much and too little. Okay, so there is my bead of glue. I want everyone to see that so you have an idea of how much to put. Now, if you have a brush at home and you don't want to get your fingers with glue on them, you can use the brush. If you don't have a brush, it's perfectly fine to just use your finger. That's what I do most of the time when I'm spreading glue out. And then if you really want to have fun, let it dry on your finger, and then you get that little glue skin that you can peel off. So notice what I'm doing here. Spreading it around so that there's no dry spots on the surface here. That's what you want. And with the remaining glue on your finger, what I usually do is just put it at an angle like this and just wipe that excess off. So now I'm going to do the same size bead on the other piece. And what I want to do here is I want to spread it out, not just on this surface, but I want to try and get some on that surface too. Because they're both going to help bond the wood together and make it nice and strong. So notice I'm taking my finger and just kind of pressing the glue into that end there. I'm going to put just a dot more glue on there. Spread that around. What the goal is we want to see a little bit of glue squeezing out. We don't want it pouring and oozing out, but we want to see some squeeze out. Okay, now with the excess on my finger, that's why I mentioned to have a paper towel handy. You can just wipe your fingers. Okay. All right, now putting this together. Remember, T-nut faces in, not out. Okay, faces in. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to press down. And you should see, hopefully in the video you should see, I have some glue squeezing out there. I have some glue squeezing out here. And on the end, I have a nice row of glue squeezing out. That's a good amount. If it's oozing out and dripping all over the place, you got too much on there. And that's okay. You can just wipe it off. But this is kind of the ideal amount, okay? So now, I'm going to press down just and hold it for, I would say maybe 10 seconds or so. You can just count in your head. And the reason why that pressure helps is it helps avoid the wood from slipping and sliding around. It kind of pre-bonds it, if that makes sense. Okay, so now that I kind of have that in place, what I want to do is I want to pull on the tape. So if your pieces are stuck together, try to separate them. If they're stuck, that's fine. But what I'm doing is I'm actually pulling kind of tight on the tape and wrapping it around, pressing it tight on here, and then wrapping it around like that. And I'm going to do that for every piece. So I'm pulling this tight. And then when I have it around here, I'm pressing down. Bring it around like that. Okay. And what this is doing is it's pulling it in and pulling it down. So I'm going to separate this here. Pull up, in, down. And last one, pull up, in, down, like that.